Ladies and gentlemen, don't call it a reboot. We're just back, baby. This is it. This is go time. This time it's for reals. State of the Nerd Union is back from its hiatus. And I swear to God, we're back for reals this time. On a consistent basis with good, awesome podcast. Joined tonight is pretty much the original Cinco. The Fellowship of the State of the Nerd Union. We got the director of X-Men 3, Kyle Nelson.
Yeah!
We've got the guy who will only show up when Kyle Nelson shows up, Greg France.
Yeah.
The judge, the jury, the lawman himself, Judge Trev. Mr.
Yeah.
I am the law. And a man I can only describe as our own Gene Roddenberry because he just tried to destroy our own product from within, Kenneth Ship.
But it wasn't intentional.
Neither was the Wrath of Khan, apparently. I don't know. And of course, me. I'm the resident a-hole. Actually, I may be an a-hole, but I'm not 100% a dick. I'm Zach. Tonight, we're coming at you with a good one. This is the top 10 must-see nerd films of all time. We got a few rules on this one. So here are the criteria. It's got to be a nerdy film. Or nerdish, somewhere in that genre area. It's got to be more than 5 years old. So we're not taking any of these new movies. It's got to earn its place. It's got to earn itself through the pantheons of time that we'll go back 10, 15 years from now and still say it's top 10 material. Like Avatar, hey, for 3 months everybody was about it, and then no one gave a shit. Also, tonight, one film per franchise, and we're going to pick either the best film of that franchise, or the film that best represents that franchise. So, it's going to be 10 films, not 10 films each. We're going to go ahead and get out of the way the ones that we're all going to vote on, the ones we all think are material, and we'll fight over the rest. So, let's just go ahead and throw something out there that we all know we're going to pick.
Ooh.
First one, I'll start off right off the bat, is Star Wars.
Which one?
Which, in my opinion, the best of the franchise is A New Hope, but the most... Empire Strikes Back. But the most iconic is A New Hope. And I don't really see any disagreement on Star Wars A New Hope being the iconic film of that entire franchise and something every nerd needs to have watched.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm all for A New Hope, picking A New Hope, because it's the one that started it all. It created that sort of Flash Gordon-esque space opera awesome.
One of the Star Wars
paved the way for a Star Trek movie. Like, without it, the Star Trek franchise probably would have died.
Are we really going to narrow it down to just that? It only paved the way for Star Trek? How many other movies did it pave the way for?
Oh, God, so many.
Exactly.
So many movies.
So one of the Star Wars is going in. I'm voting with y'all. Episode 4, New Hope, the original, simply for the game-changing aspect it was for Hollywood.
Exactly.
So, Kenny, unless you got something else to tell me why Empire should go in.
I'm in agreement.
Okay. Empire's a better movie, but for its historical value, Episode 4, New Hope. We got one in there. Boom.
Yeah. And not only that, but unanimous. But the early ones are always going to be the unanimous
We're
ones.
10% there. All right, hit me with another one. What we got?
Yeah, Wrath of Khan.
All right, we're moving on to Star Trek then. I'm totally in agreement. Wrath of Khan. Moving on. Next one.
No, I gotta pause this. I have a very, very firm opinion that Undiscovered Country is more iconic than Wrath of Khan, and better exemplifies the franchise as a whole. I've got several reasons for this. One, Wrath of Khan ends on the biggest downer of any of the movies. Mm-hmm. It kills the main character. Yeah, there's hope.
That was awesome.
No. Never, even for a moment, question that I think Wrath of Khan is not an awesome movie. That is one of the few movies I will watch back to back. Like, I'll watch it, then I'll rewatch it. Love that movie. Undiscovered Country, I think, though, ends on a far more optimistic note. It ends on a note of enemies becoming friends, or at the very least, not being enemies anymore. It ends on a note of human progress and of things actually becoming better. Wrath of Khan ends on a note of your friends are going to die. There's nothing good that's really going to come out of it. A random planet might form, but that's really more exemplifying the wonder of the universe, not of actual good things happening.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily true, because the good things that happen in Wrath of Khan are Kirk realizes that he can't cheat death anymore.
No,
Like,
no, actually,
words.
that movie actually confirms that Kirk can cheat death forever. It's just that not all of his friends can.
Well, he's got to have.
Wait,
He's
which
only
Wrath
got
of Khan are we
some
talking
red shirts.
I'm confused.
I thought you two were agreeing
You know,
on this
everyone's
movie.
a red shirt in that movie.
What?
Everyone's a red shirt in Wrath of Khan. That's the moral of that story.
Which makes it a good movie, but that just confirms that Undiscovered Country is the more iconic.
Well, no, I disagree with that, because they both
Iconic.
equally, to some extent, share different aspects of what is and is not Star Trek. Because Wrath of Khan represents the character development, and it also represents the what's the phrase? The pew pew explosion action aspect of Star Trek, which is a very important part of Star Trek, because it was like a space western when it first came out.
Wait.
Whereas Undiscovered Country is much more cerebral, and the only real action in the movie is while the Enterprise is getting shot doing nothing.
But what about Star Trek 4? I mean, Ocean's 11. I mean, Star Trek 4.
Is that the one with the whales?
Yeah,
Yeah, where they have to, steal the whales and bring them back. It's like Ocean's 11.
yeah, and that one represents all the wonderful humor of Star Trek, and at the same time, the away mission aspect of Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, not gonna lie, Voyage Home is a great, iconic movie, but it is not the best, nor is it the most iconic of the franchise.
When you ask people about Star Trek and what movie they've seen, they're going to say either '09 Trek or they're going to say Voyage Home.
Yeah, and if you don't agree with them, they're gonna say double dumbass to you.
That just makes them wrong.
It'd be like Nostradamus.
I know this is going to be shocking to you guys, but I have an opinion.
'09 Trek.
Really?
Zach has an opinion.
Yeah, I know, it's shocking.
Hold on
All
to
right,
your butts.
so 6. I'm going to concede that it is the most cerebral and probably the greatest single allegory in all the film franchise. However, I think it's a great allegorical for one concept at one period of time about the symbolization of the United States and the USSR ending the Cold War, and it being a symbol of the destruction of Kronos being a symbol for the destruction of, what was it?
Berlin Wall.
It was Praxis, and that was the symbolism for Chernobyl.
Yes,
Yeah.
Chernobyl. Okay. But it was about one event in one time, one period, whereas the concepts in Wrath of Khan transcend time. It's the ideas of life, death, rebirth, not only necessarily of the idea of death in itself, but of a living death, in the same sense of Captain Kirk existing as an admiral, going through a living death of not being able to fulfill his purpose, and having a very similar to, you'll see the movie, it references A Tale of Two Cities a lot, and that's something that they use in the book called being recalled to life, which is what Captain Kirk is at the end of the movie when he rediscovers his own self-purpose in life. And it's about discovering your own purpose again and understanding, making the most of the time that you have available. I think it's something that transcends beyond that one period of time. More importantly, 2-3 girlfriends ago, I made her watch Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and she couldn't wait to watch Star Trek 3, but I dumped her that weekend, so she never got to see it. My first experience of watching Star Trek was watching Star Trek 2. Guess what? I couldn't wait to watch Star Trek 3. And then Star Trek 4, and then Star Trek 6. Star Trek 6, if that's your first introduction to it, it's just the end.
Yes, we did.
We
Yes.
don't talk about Star Trek
Yes,
5
it's-
or Star
It
Trek.
works better if we just
yeah.
don't think.
We're just skip. It's like Star Wars numbers. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 6. Okay, that's what happened. Anyway,
Yeah, that is what happened.
moving on.
And we like Kirk
Wait.
needs his pain.
So we'll just put it this way: the three best are obviously 2, 4, and 6.
Yes.
We'll just say
All right.
that then.
But my point is, 2 was able to make a brand new fan out of me who had never seen anything else before. That girl, she wanted to see more because of 2. If you start on 6, I think that
It's the ending. 6
it's
is
the
the
ending. So there's nothing left to it. You're like, okay, that was nice, and it's over. So 2's got the better hook aspect to it. Please,
I need to-
if there's a
He
rebuttal,
knows it. He
deliver
knows
one
it.
now.
Look at the
Otherwise,
face. Look at the
so-
face.
This pen is a
And the
microphone,
attachment
and it
to
has
the
been dropped.
I will still maintain that Undiscovered Country is the best.
No.
Yes. I
You
would
can
agree
have
with
that opinion. That's
It's
fine. But I
but-
think 2 is better for this purpose.
I mean, Undiscovered Country is great. We're talking about like 2 excellent movies.
Yeah, and yeah, no, but when you mentioned that Hungry for More, and every other point I could argue, I really could. But that Hungry for More, that
I've won Trevor. Kyle, do you concede now?
no, Kyle was in agreement with you from the beginning.
Oh, I thought he was
We
saying
live in a
6 also.
democratic society, so obviously there's more for Wrath of Khan. So
Yeah,
Kenny,
and the last bastion of opposition has conceded.
so Kenny,
Yes.
unless Gene Roddenberry has something against me right now, would you like to voice an opinion?
No, I'm in agreement.
All right. So we are voting Star Trek 2.
The first one.
T-Walk, baby, The Wrath of Khan.
all right,
And
I've
spot
got the
number
next
2.
one. I've got the next one.
All right, we got another submission. What we got?
Terminator 2.
Absolutely.
Ah,
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
T2 all the
Absolutely.
way.
T2, baby.
Absolutely.
Do.
Terminator is both more iconic, more essential, and
Whoa.
No.
Whoa,
no.
whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa,
Oh,
whoa.
wrong. Okay, Terminator 2 exemplifies the sci-fi action genre. Like, total. Like, every sci-fi movie that came out after that, up through to today, is just trying to be Terminator 2. Like Terminator 2 is personally responsible for Michael Bay's career.
Terminator 2 is so heavily influenced by the first Terminator. Like there are several moments in that movie that are straight up copies of the first movie.
Yeah.
And that, to me, like, obviously, Terminator 2 could not exist without the first Terminator. Not only
That's why
that...
it's got the 2 in it.
Exactly. Terminator not only exemplifies that, but of the franchise itself, that is the only movie in the Terminator franchise that from beginning to end exemplifies the conflict of man versus machine, of what makes man superior to machine. In the second Terminator, it's Arnold being awesome from beginning
Whoa.
to end.
No, then there's a different argument brought up in T2. It's about showing your humanity to machines. How are we going to interact with them? What can
Well,
machines
here's another
That
point.
only
I-
proves the
understand.
point of the machines, though. That once you can teach machines humanity, they're the clearly superior at everything.
Now I know why you
completely
cried.
undercuts the
But
point of the
the-
first movie.
But the movies are not. Okay, first off, the Terminator, the first one, is just a straight, like, horror thriller.
Yeah.
Like, he's a robot. He's here to kill her. She's got to escape. It's basically Halloween meets time travel, meets Back to the Future.
With a fair amount of action.
With a lot of action.
Yeah, God, I love that movie.
Yeah, but Terminator 2 transcends.
We're at 4-1 right now. I don't even know why we're still having this argument.
Yeah, Terminator 2 transcends that genre in and of itself and speaks to the nature of being human, the nature of our control over our own destiny, the nature of like what it means to be human.
Yep. Now I know why you cried.
If y'all want to overwhelm me with numbers, y'all can. Because this is actually a legitimately long list that we've all got to get through.
Yep.
I'm still going to maintain that Terminator is better and a more critical movie. But let's get through the list.
Footnote number 3, Terminator 2, with the footnote that is Trevor was wrong. All right. Moving on to
All
number
right.
4.
Alien.
Wait, what did he say?
Okay, we're in the same boat again. This is going to be a battle of franchise numbers because it's Aliens with an S.
No, it's Alien.
Ooh.
It's
Aliens.
It's Alien.
It's Alien.
Aliens.
Although Aliens
How does it feel, Zach?
Game over, man. Game over. Why is Alien better than Aliens? Someone tell me.
Son of a bitch.
I
knew this was gonna
This is
come
on
up.
you guys. I've been fighting all of y'all.
I almost feel like I need to abstain.
No,
Why is
Kenny,
that?
you can't do
You're a
that.
bigger fan of that franchise than all of us.
Because say it again.
No, you know those franchises better than us. Like, you know the Alien franchises better than us. So your vote is, in fact, the most critical.
I'm saying Ellen Ripley has better character development in 2 than in 1. It has
Yeah.
a much more interesting character arc in 2
That's
than
true.
in 1. The action scenes, the plot, much more thrilling in 2 than in 1.
But they're two different genres of movies.
Yeah, but I'm
Like,
still
It
saying
was amazing
completely
that that was
different
able to be
genres of
pulled
movies.
off. That you
And
go complete
horror, the
sci-fi
first-
space horror.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm saying, like, Alien, I'd give it a 9.2 on a horror scale, and Aliens, like a 9.6 on action scale. So, still Aliens.
No, but the thing
Wait,
is
what?
that Alien defines the sci-fi horror, like anything.
Yeah.
Anything sci-fi horror after that is basically just modeling Alien.
Alright, so it's Jaws in space.
Yeah.
No, that is exactly what.
All
That's
right.
a really good description of it.
I'll concede on that point right there. So, Alien, the first one. We're almost halfway
I love
there.
Alien.
Number 5. Somebody got something. I've got one.
Okay, what's that?
Lord of the Rings. And I'm not even going to pick one of them because it's one movie.
Yeah, it is one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
But to be honest, I didn't pick Lord of the Rings.
I did.
You did? Trevor, are you good with this
I
point?
picked Lord of the Rings.
Kenny?
I picked the towers though.
I had
Big-
2 towers on mine, but yeah.
I'm fine with any of them.
Yeah.
So,
Like, Two Towers is the better one, but Fellowship is the most iconic.
Fellowship is
Typically,
really-
whenever you look
all
at-
three are really good.
whenever you look at most reviews, it usually goes Fellowship, Return, then Two Towers. Two Towers has got an amazing battle at Helm's Deep, but it doesn't matter to me, any one of them. I think it's one movie anyway. It's just one 9.5-hour flick. So,
Yeah, no,
Lord of the Rings.
Well, it is one movie, and they just cut it because they had to.
yeah. no.
So that's 4-1 against Kyle. So once again, we're gonna
Yeah.
fill up numbers, and then if anybody's got anything better than these, we can fight over for spots later on.
No, that's absolutely.
Moving
All
on,
right.
we got 4 more spots. We got 5 more spots.
Yep.
I put Planet of the Apes.
Ooh.
Nope. I had it on like my top 15, and I ruled it out.
Mm.
I didn't put it in my 10 either.
Why'd you roll it out?
I could just think of ones that better fit. Let me go to my list.
Planet of the Apes.
I
needs the
would
definition of allegorical sci-fi.
put Raiders of the Lost Ark in above Planet of the Apes.
No, but we're not doing a list based on greatness or importance. We're just doing a list of 10.
A list
We
of 10
are.
of the absolute must-see nerd films. And I would say Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of the 10 must-see nerd films.
You're both right. You're both right.
They are.
You can't call yourself a nerd and not have seen either of those movies.
Like, Planet of the Apes was in my top 15, but there's just ones that I think are on there that are better.
And, like, we can go through later, and I think, like, because I do not want to get into a contest of which is more iconic and more influential in nerd culture, Planet of the Apes or Indiana Jones.
That's
Because that is a losing fight for everyone.
I'm going to say it's Indiana Jones. I love Planet of the Apes,
Yeah.
but Indiana Jones has
When's the last time you
penetrated the
watched Planet of the
culture
Apes?
far more than Planet of the Apes has.
I have
Oh.
Indiana Jones on my top 10.
So I need to shift this away so that we can eliminate lesser things.
Okay.
Because
So, how about The Dark Knight? We all agree on The Dark Knight.
Yes, Dark
Yes,
Knight.
Dark Knight.
I do not.
He didn't put it
That's
on
spot number 6. Okay, moving on 7.
Why do you not agree?
Okay, so the reason why I do not agree with The Dark Knight is because we are currently in an era of superhero movies being just the end-all, be-all of nerd culture. It's a moment. And I am not confident that
It's not a
moment's
moment.
going to last.
No, that's not a moment.
That moment's
if
been
you're
going
talking
since 2001.
culture, it's been around since 1932.
Which, okay,
39,
so
38 was
so
the creation of
comic
Superman.
books have been iconic forever, since before some of our grandfathers have been born. But comic book movies, while they have been around for a while, I think the earliest one was the first Superman, which is on my list.
1978 Superman is?
Yes.
That's fascinating because God knows I'm the biggest Superman fan here, and it's not on my list, but The Dark Knight is.
And the reason why I put that in is because I don't know, and I cannot say for certain, when we're all in our 50s, how prevalent, how awesome, and how much we will love the superhero genre movie.
That's fine.
I can't say.
But I don't
for
care
certain.
about the genre. I care about this particular movie.
Yeah, we're not putting
movies.
we're not putting Iron Man on this list. I'm not putting Avengers on this list. I'm putting The Dark Knight because that is the single greatest superhero film out there, and it transcends beyond being just a superhero film, which is why it was so iconic and is
I
the
can't
most
say
memorable
that.
movie in the last 10 years.
I can't
What
say
he
that.
said.
Greg, Dark Knight, yes or no?
Yes.
Kyle,
Absolutely.
Kenny,
Yep.
if we're going to pick any superhero film, I'm saying The Dark Knight.
Okay, I'm not going to concede, but I will bow to your majority opinion.
All right, so we have The Dark Knight in there.
Yeah.
We've been
Well,
debating
all right.
To democracy, Trevor.
Indiana
What about-
Jones and Planet of the Apes. We're debating.
Yeah.
Anything else that is absolutely cemented that must go in this list?
What about RoboCop?
It's in the same boat as Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
It's good. It's great. It's maybe
Okay.
top 15, not top 10.
Whoa, it's this not in the same. as
2001:
Planet
Space Odyssey.
Honestly, you know I'm one of the biggest proponents of that movies. That didn't even make my top 10. It's in my top 15, not my top 10.
It's 45 minutes of a good movie. After
No,
that-
it's not. We're not talking about like. We're talking about the influence of the movie, not necessarily the quality of the movie.
So what is the influence of that movie? Like, label it out for us, Kyle.
That was the...
Well,
Wait,
Make
for
your
which movie? We're talking about.
It's the sci-fi space epic. Like it's all of it. Every sci-fi movie ever that takes place in space afterward has been modeled after it.
When was that movie released?
1960 something, like 67,
For Star Trek.
61.
Crap.
You know it be true.
It was in the
I
60s.
still can't say it. Okay, just because the movie helped launch the genre itself does not make it good or much watchable.
But not just think about that. Think about all the references that everything else makes to it.
I'm
like-
sorry, I can't do that.
The evil, the evil.
Yes!
I mean, because without that,
Okay.
we don't get Ash and Alien.
But
Zach,
Yes.
this will decide what is the exact definition of this top 10 list.
These are the 10 films, as a nerd, you must see before you die. That's all I have. You know, it's like the top 10. Have to see. You got 10 movies you're going to watch. You got 10, and you have to pick them. And I'm not going to lie. Actually, I looked at my list again, and I think at my top 10. I'm
Trevor does not like this.
I don't like this at all.
It's God. It's either
Because
yeah.
what
I'm gonna put it in there. I'm gonna vote
you
for
have
it.
given me. You know what I would be willing to bump because of 2001: A Space Odyssey? I'd be willing to bump Star Trek.
No,
That's how iconic that movie is by the definitions that have been laid out by this stupid list.
all right. I'm gonna put 2001 out to the side. We're not gonna put it on there just yet.
No. You have to. You have to put it on there. Because without a 2001: A Space Odyssey, neither Star Wars nor Star Trek would exist.
Nor Alien, or Aliens, or Terminator. Half
All right.
of this list would not exist without that movie.
Yes! Oh!
All right.
It's not a good movie! It's not!
It's a brilliant movie.
No, it's not!
Trevor, stop yelling.
It's Stanley Kubrick throwing around pretty pictures!
Could we just do like an honorable mention for 2001?
I
No.
Is that
can't do that, Kenny! I can't do that!
All right, Trevor, stop yelling. I want to go and fix the audio on this thing.
Oh.
So
Okay.
we only have 3 spots left.
Okay, so I want to throw out something for debate here.
I think
I still want to debate.
Indiana Jones has to go on this list.
Yeah, Indiana Jones does, but I also think Planet of the Apes needs to as well.
So there is something that might be even more iconic to nerd culture than both of those.
What?
Oh no.
Have to throw it out here. James Bond.
No. Nope. I wouldn't even put it in the nerd category.
That would be more like action film.
It's another action film, but it has not. It's not in the nerd culture. Like people don't go dressed as James Bond to conventions. People go dressed up as Indiana Jones. But I mean, I don't ever see anybody walking around dressed up as Jaws.
I did.
I don't know who that was, but I don't care. Anyway, no, James Bond is not on the list because I don't think it's part of nerd culture. Is it part of film culture?
Yeah, but do you
Yes.
get Indiana Jones without James Bond, as has been stated many times by George Lucas and Steven Spielberg?
That's fine. He can be influenced by James Bond, but James Bond is not one of the top 10 nerd films.
Archetype that has ever existed. How many of those roguish archetypes, with their gadgets, with their wacky, off-the-wall, random villains, how many of those characters would not exist without James Bond?
And that's fine, but I'm saying this is the top 10 nerd films. James Bond is not one of those.
If we are talking about film like iconics, if we're talking about films that other films would not have existed, how can we rule out James Bond?
Because I'm saying, if you're going to tell a nerd, these are the 10 films you have to see, I would tell them that yes, James Bond was influential and created something, but the something he created is more personified by what we are talking about here. Indiana Jones is far more personified by this subculture than James Bond. James Bond, yes. Any other list, if you want to say the top 10 action franchises you must see, James Bond, fine. But I'm going to say Indiana Jones trumps him for this criteria of nerd flick.
Okay, then I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And the main difference between that and, say, something like 2001 is 2001 in and of itself not only informs the rest of the genre, it also doesn't really fit anywhere else. Like, it fits inside that microcosm.
Okay. No, but seriously, are we going to do like an honorable mention? You could just rattle off 3 or 4 at the end of the video.
No, this is 10. You're going to have to tell me what the honorable mentions are, and they can fight for the other spots.
My list hasn't even been talked about.
No, I'm with. Okay, James Bond is out.
So we're putting which Indiana Jones film? I'm saying Raiders.
I agree, Raiders.
Nah, Crusade.
I'd put Last Crusade.
Now, see, the same thing that you could use for Undiscovered Country fits with almost all the same things.
But Last Crusade doesn't feel like an ending either.
No. Well, I mean, it does have the prototypical riding off into the sunset.
Yeah, but outside of that and outside of knowing the context of that this is the last one, there's no real other anything that informs.
The title does implicate it also, The Last Crusade. A lot of people thought that was the last movie.
Yeah, but at the same time, the idea.
I mean, if you're going to use that argument, Kyle, then you could say the same thing about Undiscovered Country. The second star to the right, straight on till morning.
No, but they're also like decommissioning the ship. They're all losing their jobs.
We're not talking about Star Trek again.
decommissioning
This is Indiana Jones. Raiders versus Crusade. Which one?
To be fair, they're always decommissioning the ship, though.
Hey, we're past Star Trek. Indy, stay on topic.
Oh, I just want to say that. I'm just saying.
I was just using Star Trek.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying what I'm saying.
Last Crusade, that it's the same logic. That the same reason why Undiscovered Country is not the most iconic of that franchise is the same reason Last Crusade is not the most iconic of that franchise.
All right, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to go with Raiders on this one, simply because if we're talking about iconic imagery, there are so many scenes in Raiders that penetrate into cinematic culture far beyond anything in Last Crusade. If I sit here and tell you about the one scene of him going in there and the rolling ball chasing after him and him holding up the sand and looking there, you have the visual image in your brain of what's happening. Him shooting the guy with the sword instead of fighting him. You have the melting faces at the end. Yeah. Raiders is just so much more cemented. It has as much more iconic scenes. Last Crusade, it's a wonderful picture. but it does not have that level.
Oh, no, I know. I just needed someone to articulate this.
I mean, that's what we're doing.
So you've been Mad Maxing me. Thank you.
You're right.
Raiders.
Ooh.
You just knew whenever I get pissed off, I'll just start ranting.
Okay, we do need to talk about Planet.
But here, segue. I just want to put this out there. Dishonorable mention goes to Mad Max. Dishonorable mention. One of the movies you'll tell them never to watch. Mad Max. There is a story for another time, and I will tell you that story at another time, ladies and gentlemen, if you're still with us. But the dishonorable mention goes to Mad Max, and...
Oh my god.
Moving on. We have 2 spots left. We've got to pick something, and there are so many great films to talk about.
Kyle.
Oh, God.
You guys need to kick this off. Y'all got
You want to tag team Planet of the Apes?
I've been kicking this off for a whole little bit.
Yeah, I named 4. I kicked off 4 movies.
Okay, well then I'll throw out another controversial one.
How many are we at, by the way? Are we at 8?
We're at 8.
Okay.
All right, this is another controversial one.
You want to read down the list so y'all can remember what's on there?
Even I'm sort of iffy on this, but I do think it deserves at least a mention and being thrown out here. The Mel Brooks movies, either Spaceballs or Young Frankenstein.
I kicked out Spaceballs because of the same reason we kicked out Galaxy Quest.
Yep.
Which we weren't recording when we said that, but we pretty much conceded that Galaxy Quest is a Star Trek movie, as referenced by the 2013 Star Trek convention in Las Vegas. They ranked the top 13 of the 12 Star Trek films. There's a little odd math for you, because Galaxy Quest ranked number 7 right there in the middle of all of them.
Gosh, and man, it belongs on the list. But the reason why I bring up specifically Spaceballs and Young Frankenstein is they developed a nerd genre in and of their own right, which is the nerd parody.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking of something like Sean.
I have a counterpoint.
But Mel Brooks did that first before.
I have a mic-dropping counterpoint.
All right, go for it, Zach.
If we're going to talk about this, we're talking about nerd comedy. When there's something strange in the neighborhood, who are you going to call?
Oh.
Dang it.
Oh.
Because...
Is that enough space?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I don't know, but I enjoy Young Frankenstein more than I enjoy Ghostbusters.
Blasphemy.
I'm about even there, but you got to think of all the TV shows that came after Ghostbusters.
Yeah, but think of all the movies that came out of Mel Brooks's craziness. Like, to not have Mel Brooks on this list feels wrong.
I'm fine with that. If we're gonna have one comedic nerd film on here, I cannot say anything other than Ghostbusters.
Conflicted. I'm so conflicted right now.
Bill frickin' Murray.
So that's number 9. Moving on.
No. Does Bill Murray? I don't think of as a nerd. He's a comedy icon.
It's not him. Like, there are lots of people who are in films that aren't nerd culture icons themselves that are in nerd films.
That's true.
Is Ricardo Montalban a nerd icon? No, but Khan is.
Okay, that did it. That did it.
All right, there's one spot left, and I got 2 or 3 films that I'm thinking of.
All right, Zach, go for it.
I'm going to throw a few of them out there just for y'all to debate over. He's talking about Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes and
Planet of the
Robots.
Okay, well, there's Jurassic Park.
That was on my list, too.
Jurassic Park. There's Back to the Future. Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Predator, which I took that one out, so I'm going to take that one out again. I love Predator, but it's not better than one of the other ones. But
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, Jaws.
No.
No, not enough of the nerd culture. Same reason as James Bond.
Yep.
All right, but still, yeah, those are ones I had those above Planet of the Apes.
Repeat your list again for me, Zach.
The ones we have on the list right now.
No, like the list you threw out specifically.
Oh, my 10.
The ones you just said.
The ones you said.
Back to the Future and Jurassic Park.
I am going to agree with Kyle in that Planet of the Apes is more iconic, more important to nerd culture, and more of a must-watch film than any of the movies you just listed.
Kenny?
I have to agree. I want Planet of the Apes on the list for anything for that courtroom scene that happens that is like the crux of the movie. Like forget
you
the
talking-
Statue of Liberty scene.
Are you
You
talking about the
damn-
literal
like-
scene?
You damn dirty apes alone.
Are you talking about the
No.
literal scene where one ape has his eyes covered and one has his mouth covered and one has his ears covered? They literally do the see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil.
No. I'm just talking about I was talking about the dialogue in the courtroom scene, but that happened too.
Yeah.
I was just talking about the way they go back and forth.
Wait, what about Blade Runner?
Visual of him getting hosed down in the cage.
What about
Like
Blade Runner?
it's the essential allegorical sci-fi movie.
But what about Blade Runner?
No, this more so.
All right, I'm gonna put it on the list for right now.
How many sequels to Blade Runner have there been? And how many Planet of the Apes sequels and reboots have there been?
I mean, if you want to talk about re-edits, there's been like 4 sequels to Blade Runner.
I've never heard of any of them. So.
Yes, you have.
It's right there.
Huh? What?
But there's 7 Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah. No, Planet of the Apes.
No,
You
there-
damn dirty apes!
There's 8 now.
8?
Planet
Well,
of the
there's
Apes,
5 in the-
Beneath Planet of the
There's
Apes,
5
Escape from Planet of the Apes, Conquest from
Planet
Planet of the Apes, Battle for Planet of the Apes, Planet of the Apes, the remake, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the
Tim-
Apes.
The Tim Burton remake. Yeah.
Yep, there's 8.
Yeah, there's a reason you
Oh.
forgot that one, Kyle.
All right, so here is the
Wait,
list.
wait. So you're saying it has so many sequels? Well, it has so many sequels because it's so good. What about Fast and Furious? It's on to the 6 or 7 now.
It's not nerdy.
It's not
Alright.
nerdy.
If there was a jock genre, it would be defined by
By Nickelback.
It would be defined by Fight Club, and it would be defined by all, and the rest would be Fast and Furious movies.
All right, so here,
We got a Tokyo
Some
Drift.
GameCube and Jack Johnson rolled in there too.
let me read off the list we have right now. And if we need to take anything off and replace it with something else, now's the time we're going to do it.
Okay.
This is not a list from 1 to 10, 1 being highest, 10 being lowest, but number 1, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. 2, Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. 3, Terminator 2. 4, Alien, number 1, the first one. 5, The Lord of the Rings franchise. It's one movie. 6, The Dark Knight. 7, 2001: A Space Odyssey. 8, Raiders of the Lost Ark. 9, Ghostbusters. 10, Planet of the Apes. Is there anything that is more deserving to be on this list than any of those films I just said?
No, I'd be fucked with it.
The only one I would throw out there is possibly Ghostbusters and Blade Runner. I would switch those, but that's only a possible. Everything else, I'm absolutely fine with.
I love Blade Runner, but I would put it above.
See?
I don't know anymore.
See,
That look.
Like, I wasn't going to keep Planet of the Apes on there, but you know what? I'm completely content with this list.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a no-brainer that we're missing? I don't want to like slap our foreheads like a couple minutes after this podcast and be like, "Oh my God, how did we leave that off there?"
And we talked about RoboCop, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park. We have ruled all these out there, and I can't think of anything else.
I mean, the only things we typically missed out on were like old 1960s
Yeah, like Metropolis and what is
Omega
it?
Man.
Dark City, Omega Man.
Savior Stood Still.
But even on these, I think all of these other
But
films...
honestly, I feel like those deserve a completely separate list altogether.
Yeah, you have B-movie science fiction, and then you have actual blockbuster quality.
I mean, they sort of deserve their own sort of category and mention, which I'm glad we are bringing them up, because modern sci-fi would not exist without them.
The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah, exactly.
And not that Keanu Reeves remake.
Mm-mm.
No, the original, the real one.
The OJ, baby.
Another honorable mention. It does not belong on the list. I will concede this. But The Thing.
Absolutely. That's on my
Oh
honorable
yeah,
mentions.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got my honorable mentions are Back to the Future, X-Men, Independence Day, Sunshine, The Thing, and one of mine that doesn't make the list, but God, I wish it did, is Children of Men.
Oh, yeah.
Children of Men and Sunshine are the two I wish would make the cut, but they don't.
Yeah, there's just more iconic. Oh, those are great movies, Kyle. Kudos to you. Yeah. Everything else that was mentioned, like y'all have already mentioned everything. But Kenny, Zach, Greg, any other things that have not been mentioned that you feel like deserve a mention?
Really want to. I mean, it doesn't deserve to be on the top 10 list at all, but I really want to throw it out there because I think it's an amazing movie. Is Conan the Barbarian?
Oh, don't forget the other one with dudes who swing swords around.
Who? Which
Highlander.
Oh, Highlander. Yeah, Highlander.
Oh, yeah, they do deserve honorable mentions. Tragically.
It's not a good movie.
No.
I enjoy it so much. It's kind of like RoboCop.
Yeah.
Both of those movies.
And I have to say Stargate because it spawned so many TV shows of Stargate.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So wait, I think this has spawned our next recording. The top 10 guilty pleasure nerd films.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
Already got our first one, Punisher Warzone.
Judge
Hey,
Dredd.
hey, time out. You hold those thoughts, because we're going to come
which
back to
Judge
those.
Dredd?
Judge
Mission Man?
Dredd.
With Sante.
Okay, Zach, Kenny, any more honorable mentions for
I've named everything I've got.
Kenny?
Was it honorable mention I had on my list was The Matrix.
It was in like my top 20, but it got eliminated pretty early.
Yeah. It
doesn't need to be on the top 10 list, but it was on my honorable. It didn't make my top 10.
Yeah.
This
I
is
got
actually
everything I wanted to say. So.
this is pretty close to my original top 10.
I'll be honest, with this list that we all did, I'm actually very surprised at how much agreement we did have on
There's
this.
at least half.
Yeah, at least half. I would say, honestly, we agreed on the top 7. Like
Every
without-
time we voted, it came to like 80% against 4-1 every time almost.
And even those 4-1s, it was usually of which one in that franchise was more important or more iconic. And when you're in a debate like that, of which one of these movies in this awesome franchise.
Because they're all beloved movies.
Exactly.
Except for Star Trek 5.
Oh, that's a terrible movie.
What's God need with the starship?
What is God?
Or the motion picture.
With the starship.
Are the creator.
All right.
Oh, wait. What about honorable mention Tron? What about Tron?
I put
Just
that
an
in the,
honorable mention. It's not doesn't deserve top 10 or anything.
no, I put that in the other list.
I'd agree. I think it does deserve an honorable mention, though.
Because technologically,
Yeah.
because of what they pulled off.
Yeah.
I put Phantom Menace in above that.
Ooh.
You dirty boy.
Wow.
He said, don't like the way you speak right now.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and call this one a night.
Yeah.
Just as a reminder, the top 10 we got was Star Wars 4, Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, Terminator 2, Alien, the original, Lord of the Rings, The Dark Knight, 2001, A Space Odyssey, Raiders, Ghostbusters, Planet of the Apes. We put a lot of honorable mentions out there, which are, most of them are quality films. And that one dishonorable mention, Mad Max. Don't watch it. But hopefully we're going to come back to you real soon.
What's wrong with it, Zach?
You gotta get the V8.
That's another podcast for another time.
You gotta know where it came from.
You gotta know where the V8
Another
came
podcast for another time.
How are they supposed to know?
You know-
How are they supposed to know in the new movie where it came from?
Sometimes
Yeah,
you
dude.
wrap dingo around a tree, and sometimes you wrap around the dingo.
Sometimes cinnamon rolls just bake themselves, Zach.
Ladies,
before we
I
call,
am just stopping the recording
Are you
right
going to be a
now.
warrior of the red?
Guys,
Are you going to go beyond Thunderdome?
Before we call this, I do want to say this: the movies we mentioned that were our top 10. The reason why these are our top 10 is that these have had the most influence, the most impact. That you can trace almost every single nerd movie back to one of these movies that we're mentioning. That in fact, if you're talking to a bunch of nerds, more than likely one of these movies will be referenced in some way.
Wait,
That is why
another one.
they're on these lists.
Another one, Time Machine. The original Time Machine.
I've not heard of that movie.
based off H.G. Wells' novel.
Oh!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again tonight. This has been the return to the State of the Nerd Union, the greatest podcast you can find if you know one of us. This has been Trev Law, Mr. I Am the Law himself, Judge Trev, Kenneth Ship, the president of the NAACP, whatever he said that one time. Go back to our old podcast, you'll get that joke. Kyle Nelson, director of X-Men 3, and Greg France, who shows up whenever Kyle does. And of course, this is me. This is Zach. I may be an a-hole, but not 100% a dick. And yeah, I stole that from Star-Lord. Check us out next week. We're going to follow this up with that top 10 guilty pleasures. Good night.